The easy availability of OTT or video on demand on our television sets and the dramatic growth of the sector in India has led many to believe that the days of going to cinema halls in the country may be coming to an end. Really depends though on who you ask, but yes, the growth of OTT platforms and the size of the segment in India has been stratospheric. Consolidation of companies which have brought us cinemas and theatres, namely the PVR-INOX group, now means that several old screens will be shut down, but also new ones will be open. But it's the quarterly numbers of PVR-INOX, the merged entity, that is a cause of concern. The multiplex chain has reported a loss of 333 crores. Why exactly is that happening now? Joining us, I spoke in fact earlier today to Ajay Bijli, the MD of PVR-INOX, a maverick in this industry. Joining us now, Ajay Bijli, the MD of PVR-INOX, a maverick in this industry. Thanks very much, Mr. Bijli, for being with us. I confess right on my immediate bias. I prefer going to a theatre any day. So much for unbiased journalism. But be that as it may, why is it that you've had this huge 333 crore first quarter loss?
It's the fourth quarter, Vishnu. First of all, please call me Ajay.
Right.
Well, it's the fourth quarter of last year, and it was a very volatile year. It's only been about 12 months since the pandemic, and pandemic really had us completely on the ground. As you know, it was a body blow, a coup de grace, which the industry had never experienced before. So it took time for everybody. So India has always been, the demand side and the supply side have been the best in the world. We make the highest number of movies and we have the highest visitations to the cinemas. But this black swan event really impacted both the supply side and the demand side. So it's like if somebody gets a severe injury, it takes time for him to recoup. So last year has been of that, but this year is looking very good. We've started the year April, May, June on some good movies. There's a good momentum even in July, August. So this loss is attributable to the volatility that we experienced last year. And it was a very strange year, Vishnu. What we had is either the peaks were very, very high. So you had like RRR, KGF, Avatar 2 and Pathan, which performed even better than anything ever did pre-COVID, barring Bahubali 2, which was an aberration. But if you take Bahubali 2 out of the equation, all movies have performed better than ever in every category. But then the peaks, the valleys were very low as well. So if a movie did not connect with the consumer, the dip was very low. So therefore, that equilibrium that we used to get pre-COVID did not come in the first 12 months. But now we are seeing that it's a momentum business. Every week some movie comes out, 2 or 3, 4 films come out. People see the trailers and they come out. So I think we are back on track now. This loss also is because of some extraordinary expenditures which were merger related. So merger related expenditures, there are a lot of accounting rules and there are one-off expenditures. If my CFO was on this call as well, he would have probably explained it better, which are there, impairment charges. That's one expenditure which has brought the loss very high. Second is that we shut down about 50 odd cinemas. Yes. And we shut them down simply because the life of those cinemas was over. So a lot of our cinemas are in malls. So if malls themselves start closing down and they become less attractive, then there is no point carrying on with the leases, because we are all leased properties and the leases also come to a life cycle end. So
but Ajay, how many people have ended up losing their jobs as a result of these 50 screens being shut down?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the number of jobs that we create every year. 200 screens we add. So but they won't lose their job. They'll get adjusted to the new properties. Because if you go deep into it, for example, Lucknow, we've got almost 80 screens now, but there were some very old properties which were just completely getting decrepit. And also sometimes there's an alternative use for the developer. He can do something else on that property. So we can't really force them to extend the lease as well. But none of these guys are going to lose their jobs. There's plenty of growth happening.
That's important, and that's good news, because in this market, you are going to absorb them in another part of your enterprise. But I think it's also interesting that you're setting up to 175 additional screens.
That's
why would you do this at a time when let's face it, OTT is a rage and, it is doing phenomenally well.
So OTT, this I think the conversation about OTT has also gone over the top now, because that is one form of content consumption, which with the avatar has changed. So it was a TV, then it became LDs and DVDs and VHS. Maybe I'm not saying it in the right order. Then satellite became very big, and now OTT has come. But long form storytelling is what is very popular in OTT, not movies. And we are all about movies. So during the pandemic, of course, the windows, which is the gap between the theatrical release and the OTT release, collapsed because we were shut. So therefore, certain movies went to the OTT platforms. But now if you look at it, all the shows that all of us watch, even I'm a big fan of some of the TV shows that come, some brilliant one I was watching last night. I'm forgetting the name of Sonakshi Sinha's program. But basically, long form entertainment is what people watch at home, where 13 episodes, season 1, season 2, they get unfolded and we all love it. But when you want a quick fix and you want something experiential out of home, then they go and watch movies. So this is the way it was happening pre-pandemic, and this is the way it's going to happen post-pandemic as well. And so the same consumer, you and I, we have different habits. We can put our feet up and watch something at home, and at the same time, on the weekend when our discretionary time is more, we can go out and watch movies. And that's always been the trend, and that's always been something that's been going on for a long time, and it's coming back again. So this week, for example, we had Guardians of the Galaxy, Fast and the Furious is coming next week. Then we have Adi Purush, we have Flash, we have another big movie coming, I'm forgetting. It's just crossing, Transformers, lots of films are coming. Jawan is coming. Kerala Story was a big sleeper hit. That's done very well, already touched about 150 odd crores. So people are coming out. And at the same time, OTT platforms are doing well. So both have always coexisted, and they'll continue to coexist. It's not an either or discussion, a binary discussion at all.
So you wouldn't agree with the argument that the cost of a ticket to see a movie in a multiplex is more than the cost of what many subscribers would pay for an OTT platform all year? And
No,
therefore that would be
more.
less attractive.
No, the cost is definitely more, because the experience, there's a lot of infrastructure behind showing a movies on the big screen.
Sure.
And so that's what, but fortunately, we got 141 million people visited our cinemas last year, and our average ticket was 220 rupees. So that's our ATP. So a lot of people who live in urban cities, they go to maybe Director's Cut in Vasant Kunj, or they'll go to DLF Promenade, or they'll go to Juhu or Koramangala in Bangalore. So they take that as the average ticket price. That's not the average ticket price. So our India is a very disparate market, and our circuit is very disparate. So our ticket prices range from anything from 100 rupees to as high as 2,000 rupees, because we want to get everybody out of their homes, even even those who've got their home theaters at home. So, but if you take the average ATP of PVR-INOX put together, it's about little over $200.
Are you decisively out of COVID and which hit your industry terribly?
Look, to be honest with you, airlines, hospitality and cinemas are the three sectors that got impacted the most. We have taken the longest to recover. There's no question about it. So it's taking longer than the other sectors. But as I said, this particular year, after the last quarter, has started very well. And even last year, some of the things have completely made us feel very optimistic, because there's no reason why these movies would have reached sky high figures if people did not have the appetite to come out and watch movies, because they were tired of being at home. And it's a very natural thing for Indian consumers, at least, to go out and watch movies. And that's what I find the Indian market very, very exciting, because both the supply side and the demand side is very strong.
You are banking obviously on the success of films and big releases, and you are confident that, let's talk about Bollywood, that and even our southern film industry, this year 2023, you've got enough to bank on to be profitable by the time we speak this time next year?
Absolutely. I'm confident because some incredible scripts are being written. The supply side producers haven't seen these kind of results ever. So when they release a movie on OTT, it's cost plus.
Yes.
So there's a cap to how much they can earn. But when it comes to theatrical release, if the movie connects with the audiences, there is no cap. It can go to any level. So for economic reasons as well, the supply side, which is the film fraternity, is very excited to bring the movies back onto the big screen. And I'm also not just banking on mega blockbusters. I gave you the example of lot of these Ayushman Khurrana movies that used to come pre-COVID. There's a huge lineup of these smaller movies as well. And small movies are not defined by the budget. Small movies are defined by how they do at the box office. Right. So these sleeper hits are the ones which used to really get us excited. And I see a huge lineup of the sleeper hits as well this time. Smaller movies which will connect with the consumer.
What about footfalls inside multiplexes? Can you share some trends with us this year?
Well, last year has not been, Vishnu, very good. As I said, pre-COVID, combined entity did about 180 million people, 18 crores, but we did about 14 crores in this particular year. So there has been a shortfall. But now April onwards, we're looking at almost a crore this month, a crore and 30 in May, a crore and 40. So which is very healthy. So we're looking on track to get about 18 crore, roughly 180 million people this year.
All right, Ajay, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much. And let's hope that, people get back in the volumes that you all seek. There is nothing that really replaces the movie-going experience. Thank you very much indeed for being with us.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
All right, so OTT versus the cinema-going experience. Where exactly is India headed? We've got a fantastic panel now. Manish Kalra is the Chief Business Officer at Z5. Suresh Menon is the co-founder of One Network Entertainment. We've got Shailesh Kapoor, the founder and CEO of Omax Media, and Karun Taurani, the Senior Vice President and a research analyst with Elara Capital. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Manish Kalra, let me come to you first. Given the phenomenal numbers that we are seeing on OTT, do you believe it's just a matter of time before OTT effectively replaces the cinema-going experience?
I think, Vishnu, I don't agree with that statement. It is that both the formats will coexist. It's just the consumer. They go to cinema to get an experience of the entire big screen. It's an outing with the family and they get to eat and do some shopping. However, in case of OTTs, obviously they're at the comfort of their home and they're more convenient. So both formats will coexist. It's the consumer who will be the winner. They'll have more choices to watch the content and they will be kind of getting more and more entertained with good quality content. But it will never be either or scenario.
Suresh Menon, considering the fact that for the cost of a multiplex ticket, so many consumers in our country can buy a year's subscription to an OTT platform, ultimately won't economics decide the film-going experience, whether it's at home or going to a cinema hall?
It's completely dependent on the choice of the consumers. For example, I was just hearing Ajay speak and I want to tell him that I've been visiting PVR regularly, but on the expensive side tickets, and I've always found that they do have a range for people to come and enjoy the experience. Theatre going has become an experience nowadays, and people do look at it as a weekend experience, or where hit films are concerned, people do go and watch them. The advantage of having OTTs in our lives is that we can consume most of the content that is put out in the universe. So what we miss in the theatres, we watch it on OTT. So the watching experience is different in both the ends of the spectrum. But if you look at it in a way, what is good for the consumer, I think the consumer has got the best of both the worlds. And I'm very glad that COVID has finally left us, according to UN at least. And people have started going back to theatres. And I just recently went to the theatre to see Avengers on the expensive side of the tickets on a weekday. So it was nice, cool and empty for sure. Me and my son enjoyed the experience in the theatre. We saw the theatre crowded. There was no crowd over there. People were there. And of course, we came back home, and since the vacations are on, we consumed some more content over OTT. So I think as consumers, we are going to only one danger, that we may become too lazy, or we have got too much to watch. Like this wig over here, we've got so much of things to watch, and the choice is ours. So I'm just picking this up. So that's where, you have got some, as long as you've got clean entertainment, you're going to enjoy yourself.
Karan, Just the statistics, the numbers are truly incredible, aren't they, when it comes to OTT? India is what, the second largest market now in the world? So in terms of where this part of the media and entertainment industry is headed, it's just phenomenal, isn't it?
Hi, Vishnu. Definitely, the India OTT market, is going phenomenally well. Too many things are happening here around sports, around short form video content, around aggregation, around web series, around regional penetration opportunities, smartphones. So the demographics are just perfect, for the India OTT market to do well over the next few years. But as far as cinema is concerned, there's a belief here that cinema definitely could coexist, over the medium to long term. But it all depends in terms of how the content pans out. So if you look at what has happened in the post-COVID era, there has been a big shift in terms of the customer consumption trends. They've been exposed to regional content. They've been exposed to regional stars. They've done a catch-up of a lot of these dub films which have come on OTT platforms. So if you provide them the Hindi content, which is a remake of the regional films, they will not go and watch it into cinemas. So I think a lot of supply of content needs to change strategically. And if you look at the film content business, it's always been cyclical. I mean, we've had these cycles wherein we've seen a shift in terms of the stars which are coming. The current trend, of course, is very exciting. It could even lead in a very big positive way because, South stars have seen very big acceptance in North, right? It's a matter of time that even the North stars see some kind of acceptance in the South market. So there's an opportunity to scale up. There's an opportunity to go global as well as far as content is concerned. But whether or not we'll get back to those growth rates of 15-20% for the exhibition industry, that is a big question mark. Because footfalls are a clear concern. Cinema operating business is of high operating leverage, a large chunk of fixed costs. So if you don't get the footfalls back on track, you will see these losses actually continue to mount. So I think it's going to be each one to its own. But as far as OTT is concerned, they've actually spoiled the market. And, it's been almost 4 quarters now that, cinemas have opened up with full occupancy and without restrictions. Of course, one reason to blame here is content. But it is also the frequency, the habit of the customer, which has kind of changed in the post-COVID era. And some of the trends are here to sustain for sure. So there has to be some kind of realignment, whether it could be the cost base, whether it could be the supply of content, whether it could be some innovation on cinema, if they were to really come back to pre-COVID levels.
Shailesh, would you agree that ultimately you're going to get people out of their homes only if that film or the movie is something incredible? It offers an experience which people will not get if they just switch on their television and watch. I mean, we all watch now on high definition, so that's one thing out of the way. But for a film to be absolutely incredible, for example, a Pathan or an Avatar or a Top Gun 3, those films don't often come, right? And therefore, if they don't always come, is that problematic for cinema, for the cinema industry, for the multiplex industry?
Yeah. So Vishnu, what has happened in the last 2 years because of the pandemic is that the bigger films have got bigger. So the share of the top 10 films before pandemic was around 40%. So in a typical year like 2019, the top 10 films would contribute around 40-45% of the box office. In 2021, they contributed as high as 65-70%. But then they have gone on to do much bigger than the bigger films pre-pandemic. So in a way, we are seeing a polarization. So I don't necessarily agree with what Ajay said earlier that the Ayushman kind of sleeper hits would be the way forward as well. I think those are the ones which will really struggle and go to OTT, and that's fine because that's where an audience is ready for them. But it is the Pathan, which is the biggest Hindi film in terms of box office of all time, KGF, RRR, Avatar, which are getting bigger than what equivalent films used to be in 2018-19. So in a way, we are seeing polarization, and we are seeing that the bigger ones are bigger, but the smaller ones are completely getting marginalized. And I think that is the nature of the medium in Hollywood. This has been happening for a few years. That franchise and the superhero big ticket films are pretty much the top 10, 20 films every year. So I think we may just, in a way, be following the West. Pandemic may have just accelerated that process. But it's a global trend that cinema is about big screen experience and about going out with people you want to hang out with. Yeah. And more intimate viewing is at the home.
Manish, let me ask you, are you concerned going forward that at the government proposal that OTT platforms will be brought under the film certification system, in other words, the censor board? Does that mean that the nature of content is going to change for you and me when we go home and watch something on a platform?
I think, Vishnu, the advantage with OTTs is like, as a consumer, I get to make a choice on what I want to watch. If I want to watch more proactive, forward-looking content, I have the choice. Now, till now, what the government has done is they've allowed us to self-regulate, and there's a consumer redressal forum which is working very fine. We would not recommend having a strict public viewing guideline like a censor board, which is for when you're watching something in public with others around you. OTT gives you the privacy, OTT gives you the convenience. You can be at your home watching things on your mobile phone. So that's a choice that should be with the consumer. I think treating every medium like together when one paintbrush format will not work. But obviously, we are realizing that government is very open. People at the regulatory center are very, very open, and they're open to ideas, and they're having discussions with us, with our experts, on what do we need to for the industry to grow and what's best for the consumer. So I am sure people at the center will realize and things will fall in place. But yes, having a strict common paintbrush approach will not work for OTTs and any other industry.
Suresh, how do you see this entire issue? Because we are in a country where this culture of wanting to ban for various political purposes, etc., seems so dominant. Every new film that comes out, for example, there's a problem. Now, that often targets the cinema halls. It doesn't target as much so far as OTT platforms, though there have been concerns raised on a couple of occasions. But do you believe that going forward, if films or whatever it is on OTT platforms are brought under the censor board, then, it's not going to be the same as it is now?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the truth. But if anyone is trying to control anything on the internet, I feel whatever you want to watch is anyways available on the net, and people are just fooling themselves and they say that we can bring some sort of regulatory rules in this consumption of content. Content is freely available on the net, and there is no stopping that. So, firstly, regulations are the most important thing for parents at home when they're controlling their kids from watching a certain program. But getting this under the review of censor board would make it a little bit more tougher for people to make content which are slightly edgy at times. And yes, there have been a lot of talks about banning things and hartals and all that stuff. So to avoid that, maybe some sort of sanity has to be there within the creators and makers for sure. So nobody wants to lose out on anything. Because a lot of times what people forget, when you ban a film, when you ban a project, people who suffer are not the actors that you're going behind, not the producers that you're going behind. It is the least common denominator, the guy who's working as a chaiwan on the set, the guy who's working as a set guy on the set, the electrician on the set. Those guys are the ones who suffer really a lot, and they were nowhere to go. After this, they're not qualified like others to, it's easy for a lot of people to be armchair, to be sitting on their chairs and then banning, content. But there's a bigger story to it than just banning things. There has to be regulation for sure. I do agree with that. But if you get this too strictly onto OTTs, then there's going to be an issue of putting out content for sure. I think self-regulation is the best part. And let people tell their stories. After all, people are telling stories. So let them tell their stories. If you like it, you see it. If you don't like it, don't see it. It's still the remote control is in your hand. And even
but it would become a problem if censorship actually drives producers to not make the movies that they want to make, because they realize that it's just not possible for them to necessarily be as successful as they would be in a system which is somewhat less unregulated as it is now. Look, we're running out of time on this, but I think I do take away the point that the cinema going experience, at least for now, will remain, and that OTT platforms are here to stay as well. But certainly the financial dynamics of cinemas is under stress at a time when the OTT industry has grown at the level at which it has. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.